Hi guys. So in this video, we will talk about how AWS S3 Object Lock will affect if you are using AWS config, AWS control, cloud trail lock, AWS control tower. So if you are using AWS control tower to manage your governance architecture in your organization or the solution which you are creating, you will be definitely using AWS cloud trail and AWS config underneath. So if you are using AWS Object Lock, sorry, AWS S3 Object Lock, you will be able. There are some issues that you might be facing due to some features lacking in the services. So first of all, if I briefly explain what is object lock, is we can enable object lock so that the object will not be deleted accidentally. So there are multiple types of object locks. So if I go to this one of my S3 buckets, so if I go in here and let's say if I go to object lock section, so you can see at the moment object lock is enabled. So basically, in order to enable object lock, you need to have the S3 versioning enabled first. And once you enable the object lock, you can't suspend or suspend the object bucket versioning or disable the object lock again. You can disable the retention, but you won't be able to disable the object lock itself. You can disable the retention. So when it comes to retention, you can either disable it or enable it. If you enable it, you have two modes. One is the governance mode, one is the compliance mode. Governance mode, you can override if you have specific IAM permissions. But for the compliance mode, once it's enabled, you cannot override by any means. That means if you enable compliance to any of your S3 buckets and you want to delete the content of that S3 bucket after enabling the compliance mode, the only method is to delete the entire AWS account itself. Not even AWS can help you to delete any objects that is protected by compliance mode. So if you are going to enable compliance mode, think twice. There are considerations that you have to consider. So there's down in the description I will put a blog article also which are written on this, so it will have more details than the video. So there are limitations and there are considerations that you have to think before enabling the compliance mode. So my suggestion is if you want to have the retention mode enabled with the object lock, so you will have to first, it's better to enable governance mode and test it out, and then you can enable compliance mode later on after you identified your use case properly. So if the third, this is the default retention mode. So there's another one, but which is called legal hold. So when you have the default retention mode enabled, you can set the number of days. So if I have 1 day, so any object that I put after enabling this will have a 1 day of default retention. So, and then again there's another one we can enable which is known as legal hold. So let me show that part also to you. Sorry, legal hold is you cannot find the legal hold in here. Legal hold will be in the object. So if I have an object in here, so at the moment if I click on this particular object and if I go to object lock legal hold, there's nothing, and object lock retention also there's nothing. This is because when I put this object, although I had the object lock enabled, I didn't have any retention. So just enabling the object lock will not protect it. You'll have to either have the legal hold or either have a default retention, or you again another method is so this is the bucket configuration which I showed you. So if you do not have the bucket configuration, there's no method to apply legal hold through the bucket configuration. Only the default retention modes can be applied to the bucket configuration. But let's say if you do not have the default configuration for the bucket for the retention, then when you are putting the object in the put object request, you can configure the retention. Okay. So let's say, so at the moment this particular object is not protected. So if I, let's say if I go to and click on object, let's say I'll go back to the bucket, and if I click, I'll enable all the version, and I click on TCM and object, my object, and click, if I click on delete, I will be able to delete it. See, okay. So I can delete it because although object lock is enabled, I didn't have any retention, and I showed you when I went to the object, didn't have any retention enabled. So object is just there, it's not protected. Just by enabling the object lock, it won't protect. Keep in mind, you have to have retention configured either through the bucket configuration or when you're uploading the object. So let's go back to my bucket again and see whether let's see, now I have the default retention configured for in the governance mode for 1 day. So let's upload object, and I'm going to upload on file. So I have one file in here. So if I just go to the settings to show, so my object lock is enabled, and I'm going to put it into the standard and object lock. So object lock, you cannot like configure it in the console if you, so since it's going through a put object API call, if you need to put in the retention. So I already have bucket retention applied, but let's say you can override the bucket level configuration through object level configurations. But in order to override to put the retention configuration with the put object call, you have to use CLI or the SDK. You cannot do it in the console. So as you can see, I do not have any so option in here. You have to use either CLI or SDK or S3 REST API. So then I'm not going to have any like metadata configured at the moment. So there's nothing in the put object request which I'm going to make through the console regarding any retention. But I'm going to click on upload. So the object is now uploaded. And if I click on the object and if I go down, so you can see, so object legal hold is not there anymore because I didn't put any legal hold. Legal hold is like something like the object, it's also object lock mechanism. So there are retention modes, which is the governance and the compliance, which I showed you earlier. The legal hold is like a custom lock. That means you have to put it, you have to go and lock the padlock, and when you don't need it, you have to go yourself and unlock it. So in the retention, once the days are expired, it will object will be able to delete it again after number of days are expired. But the legal hold is something you have to explicitly put and explicitly remove. So it's a manual work. So there is no object lock legal hold enabled, so that means no manual lock. But as you can see, object lock retention is there, it's in governance mode, and it will be removed by 27th August, so this 26th. So because I put 1 day. The thing is, so as you could see, remember earlier when I put the upload the object, I did it through the console and there were none object lock configurations, right? So this configuration was applied through the bucket configurations. The beauty is, like as I said, in the governance mode, it's more lenient. So let's say you mistakenly upload this object, a wrong object to the wrong bucket, and you want to delete it. So you can do it in the governance mode, because in the governance mode, if you have specific level of permissions, you can delete. So those permissions are actually, you need to have the S3 bypass governance retention and XAMC bypass governance retention true header in your console. So if you have S3 full access, these two by default are assigned to you. So at the moment I have full access to S3 permissions. So if I click on this one, and if I first I will enable show versions, and then if I click on this one and click on delete, I'll able to delete because I have the full permissions to S3. And because I am actually an administrator for the AWS account at the moment. So if I click on delete, it will get deleted because I had the permissions. But let's say I am not an administrator and I only had very specific level of permissions like S3 delete object without S3 bypass governance mode. If I did not have S3 bypass governance retention, and if I did not, I only had the delete object and put object, read object, I won't be able to do it. And then again, now again I'm going to show you guys again is another thing. I'm going to show you next the legal hold, how the legal hold will work. Then I will go back and show the compliance mode. So now again I will upload the object. We'll upload the same object and files. Going to have same object again, upload. Okay, got uploaded successfully. In order to delete the object, you need to have the IAM version S3 bypass governance retention permission. Also, you need to have the x-AMC bypass governance retention true, the header included in your request. By default, AWS console add this header to your request, so there's any delete action performed through the console. If you have the S3 bypass governance retention permission, will get succeeded. But if you are doing the deletion through API call and SDK call, other than having the S3 bypass governance retention permission, you need to make sure that x-AMC bypass governance retention true header will be added to your request. You can find those information in the down there's in the description. I put a blog post. So in the blog post, these permissions and retention header names are clearly mentioned. Please read that one also. So now I'm going to enable object legal hold on here. So as you can see, this is a manual padlock, so I can enable and disable when I need. So I'm going to enable the object lock. So if I go down, object lock legal hold is enabled and governance retention is there. Now it's protected in two methods. One, people do not have full access to S3, they can't delete it because they will not have the bypass permission, so it is protected. And people who have that even administrator permissions, now even I won't be able to delete it until I remove this object lock manually. So this is a manual padlock. So I will go back to the bucket just to showcase that one. So I'm going to switch on enable all versions, click on this one and delete. Now what should happen? It should give me an error because now the padlock is there, object lock is there, sorry, object lock legal hold is there. See, you cannot delete the object. For more information, see the error column of the failed delete table below. So error column is access denied. Why is it access denied? Because I have the legal hold enabled and delete it. So if I go back the object and if I remove the legal hold, so as you can see, legal hold still enabled. I'm going to edit it again and I'm going to remove the legal hold, save changes, and if I go back and then I'm going to again show versions and then delete, and then I'm going to type permanently delete object. Now it's successfully deleted. See how that object lock legal hold works. Now let's say you don't want to manually enable legal hold, or maybe you do not automate and enable legal hold for each and every object that you apply, and you know for sure anything that you put into this particular bucket need to keep for 1 year, 2 years, 3 years for the compliance purposes, and none should be able to delete them, and there won't be any like mistakenly putting wrong items into this bucket also. So you know what is going to be, and you know this is a defined period of time and none should be deleted within that by anyone. Then you can enable the compliance mode. So let's go and enable the compliance mode. So I'll go back to the bucket and go to properties, and I go to object lock settings. The object lock, I'm going to change it from governance to compliance. So as remember, no user can override or delete protected object version during the retention period. No user, not even the root user. Okay, not even the root user can delete or override this bucket permissions. Again, if you want to delete something which is protected by the compliance retention mode, the only method is to delete the entire AWS account itself. There's no other method. Don't try to create a AWS premium or business, sorry, not premium, enterprise or business support case and ask them to delete it. They even can't delete this once you have this in this particular mode. Okay, so I'm going to put it in the compliance, 1 day retention, save changes. Then it's going to see, again they are going to give a design warning and ask, are you sure? So you can't, if you enable accidentally and protect something and you can't delete it, it's going to cost you, right? Anything you do in cloud going to have some cost. So let's say you enable a compliance mode in a bucket and you put 1 TB of unnecessary data, and you remember, okay, I have compliance mode in this bucket, but there is a 1 TB of unnecessary data, I need to delete it. You can't do it. You have to wait till the retention expired in order to delete that 1 TB of data, and that's will cost you. So in order to make sure that you are consciously doing this decision, taking decision, they are also going to ask us a confirmation. So I'm going to, since I'm going to demo this one, I'm going to say confirm. Again, okay, now if I go to bucket settings and check it, yes, object lock enabled, default retention enabled, compliance mode, its default retention is in compliance mode, and 1 day retention period. Okay, so I go back to objects. I do not have any objects at the moment, no versions, nothing. I'm going to upload an object, same object again. Okay, and just to showcase, so object lock enabled, default retain, default encryption, bucket version enabled, non-specific like additional permissions going to be standard. So site encryption is nothing like default encryption. No object lock specific settings, no additional data or tags or anything. So I'm going to upload. Okay, now the object is successfully uploaded. I go back to bucket and then to the object, and if I go down, so this is my object, so I'm going down. So I do not have legal hold, remember, now at the moment, now just uploaded the bucket, sorry, object to the bucket. I do not have legal hold enabled, it's disabled, but object lock has the default retention in compliance mode. It's going to expire tomorrow because I put 1 day. And what I'm going to do is, now I am an administrator, as you can also saw earlier. So I at the moment have administrator permissions for this particular demonstration. Now I am going to delete this object, try and delete this object and see what happens. So now it's in compliance mode, not governance. Earlier when I had the governance, I was able to delete, right, without the legal hold. Now legal hold is not there, but I'm in the compliance mode. The object is in compliance mode. Let's see what will happen. Click it, and so first of all I'm going to click show object versions and then click it. So all the versions are selected, there's only one version. I'm going to click delete. I'm going to put permanently delete and delete object. See, I cannot because it's protected by the compliance mode retention. Now till tomorrow, the time which has been given. So time is, let's see, till 27th 13th 29 UTC plus 8. You cannot do anything to this particular object. Only after that time you can override it, you can delete it. Only after that time you can do changes to this particular object. It is protected at the moment. Can't do anything. Okay, so now you got a basic idea on how governance and compliance mode works.